Hi, it's Ann Heine with College Made Clear, and today we're going to tackle part one of the college essay. And this is the topic that seems to give my students the most anxiety and stress. None of that here today. This is going to be straight talk about how to get this part right. And it's a lot easier than you think. So I'm going to break it down into two parts. Today's part one, what the role is of the essay in the application process and the process that I take my students through, which you can replicate at home. Next part is going to be part two. It's a step-by-step of the rest of the process and how to actually get everything done. So in my world, we always start with a definition, and today is no different. The definition of the college application essay is it's your opportunity as a student to tell colleges who you are beyond the application. In other words, the application essay is a chance for you to tell colleges something they don't already know from what they have in front of them. So let's actually start with the application. So if you have opened up a Common Application account, which I encourage you to do, in the middle tab, the Common App tab, is all the information that you're going to be provided to every college that receives your application through the Common App. So let's go through that. First of all, the profile. The profile is all of your basic personal information, things like where you come from, your address, your high school, that kind of thing. The second one is family, pretty self-explanatory, but that's going to be mom, dad, stepdad, stepmom, where they went to college, what they do for a living, information about them, as well as any siblings that you might have. And then education, that's where did you go to high school? Really not a whole lot more than that, just so that the Common App folks get a sense of where you're coming from. Then there's the testing information. You can put in here your SAT results, your ACT results, any test results that you want to share with colleges. It's not mandatory, but you can certainly put it in here. Then you're going to be asked to list your activities. In the Common App, you can list up to 10 activities. And sometimes it's great to maximize that, but you want to make sure you organize it correctly. But colleges will know what it is that you did with the time that you were in high school. And now at the bottom, we come to the essay. Hidden or listed as writing. So that's where the essay lives. And most other application platforms, if you're not looking at the Common App or not planning on using it, will ask you fairly similar information about yourself. So the application is a little bit like a puzzle in that there's lots of parts that go into it. And the first is what you did in high school and the activities that you spent time doing. That's part one. Then the second part is your demographics. That's like the information that you put in about where you live and what part of the country you're from. That helps colleges get to know you a little bit better. Then the third part is something we've talked about in a previous video. That's recommendations, what other people say about you, other people's opinions. So it might be a teacher, it might be your counselor recommendation, or it might be an evaluation from a boss or a coach, somebody of that nature. And then the last part is probably the most important in my mind, and that is what you say about yourself. So yes, there's an opportunity in the application for you to have a say about what it is that's your plan and who you are and how all these parts kind of pull together. So that's the essay. The essay is really that opportunity for you to weigh in about who you are. And colleges are going to assume some things about you from that other information, and they kind of assume they already know you. And that essay is the way that you say, hey, no, this is really who I am. This is how the story of how this all came about. So the essay in a lot of ways is the college's question to you to say, hey, tell me a little bit more about yourself. This is the purpose of the essay. So if you think about that question, what would you say? What would you want them to know about you? And remember, it's outside the application, everything that they already know about you. That's an important process to go through. So sometimes you don't know. So let me talk to you about the way that you pull the the essay together before you start writing. My thought is always that you want to make sure that you're speaking in your own voice. And I'm going to introduce an activity to you in a minute that is all about knowing what your voice is. And this is from the folks at the Wild Writing Workshop. Find Your Voice is such a great exercise. I love it. And it is an important thing to do to make sure that the essay is written and sounds like you. The second part is you want to know what it is the colleges are asking you, because there is a specific question they're going to ask you to respond to. That's called the prompt. And then the prompt has some prompt choices. So I take my students through that as well. Then the next step in my practice is to go through and brainstorm, come up with some stories that support your response to the prompt, and then you go about creating content. That's actually the writing part. Then the final part is refining it. That's getting it polished, getting it pretty, getting it to the point where it flows well and it doesn't have any grammatical or spelling errors. So students often think the writing part is the hardest part, but in my experience, the writing is actually pretty easy once you understand the purpose of the essay and how the prompt fits into that. But we are getting a little ahead of ourselves. So first you need to figure out what the essay should sound like. So what I want you to do is I'm going to give you some instructions, and when I'm finished, I want you to pause this video, go off and do the assignment, and then come back. So step one of the assignment is I want you to pull out a sheet of paper or a document on your computer or other device. And I want you to set a timer for 5 minutes. And I want you to write down absolutely everything that happened today from the moment that you woke up until this very moment. And before you start writing, I want you to think about what you see, what you hear, what you smell, what you taste, and what you can feel. All of those things, those 5 senses that you have, are really important in your writing because it brings a lot of depth and interest to your writing. So don't judge what you're writing, set a timer for 5 minutes, and write down everything that happened to you since the time that you woke up to the time that you started watching the video until the timer goes. All right, off you go. I'll be here when you get back. Okay. So you have finished the first part of the exercise of Find Your Voice. The second part of the exercise is take a look at your writing. And I want you to highlight, underline, bold, whatever it is, notice, make note of at least 3 parts in your writing that really stand out as these are signature things that you either do or say or something that you recognize. These are sort of the characteristics of your writing that stand out to you. Maybe it's a phrase you constantly use when you talk and it showed up in your writing. That would be pretty standard. So take a pause in the video and go off and do that, and I'll be here when you get back. Okay, so now you have done the Find Your Voice exercise and you've analyzed your writing. What's next? Now you want to take a look at that and say, this is your voice. So when you write your essay, this is the voice you should be using. It shouldn't sound like your older sister or your best friend. It should sound like you. And if your tone is sarcastic, then that's the way that your essay will probably sound because your personality will come through. Or maybe you're super fun loving, or maybe you are incredibly sophisticated when you talk and you have a really deep vocabulary. Great, whatever it is, don't try to be somebody else in your essay. Be who you are. And that is the key to having the right tone and voice in your essay. All right, we're going to move on. Next thing I want to do is think about the prompt. Well, what do colleges want to know about you? Well, they actually tell us straight up. It's not a puzzle. It's not a test. But students often go right to the prompt choices when attacking the essay. But I think this step is really critical to their success. So let's take a look at the Common App prompt instructions, which most students overlook. All right, it says the essay demonstrates your ability to write clearly and concisely. Well, that makes a lot of sense. They just want to know that you can put a couple sentences together, a couple paragraphs together, and communicate effectively. Why? Well, because guess what? That's what you'll do in college. A lot of college is going to be writing and communicating in written form. So they want to make sure you know how to do it. All right, what's the next section say? On a selected topic. Great. Well, the topic is actually what you choose. And then the third part is helps you distinguish yourself in your own voice. That sounds familiar. Didn't we just talk about voice? So they want you to be as authentic as possible when they're reading your essay, because they're not going to get to know you. They don't actually get to meet you in most cases. So this is their opportunity to get to know you. So be who you are in the essay. All right, let's look at the next sentence. It says, what do you want the readers of your application to know about you apart from grades, courses, and test scores? So we talked about this too, right? We want them to know something about you that is apart from what you've done inside the classroom and frankly, outside on the playing field, if you're an athlete, or in the orchestra pit, if you're a musician. This is really important. And it's pretty straightforward, right? They're telling you right away, this is what they want to know. So how are you going to answer that? Well, if you're like most of my students, you're like, I don't have any idea. This right here is the hardest step of the essay. You are not used to talking about yourself, and you might not exactly know what it is that you want to tell colleges. So you ought to spend an awful lot of time here before you go to the next step. It might actually be the most important step, even before you get to the actual writing. And a lot of this will be much easier if you do your work here. So let's talk about what it is colleges already know about you. So they already know how you did in class, because the application will have your transcript associated with it. They'll already know what classes that you've taken. They know what your teachers think about you, because they'll have recommendations in most cases. They'll know where you went to school, so they'll have a sense of what your background is and the environment that you're coming from. And they'll know what activities you chose. What don't they know? They have no idea who you really are. They don't know what's important to you. They have no idea what kind of impact you've had, either in your family, on the playing field, in the classroom, at your job, just in general, in life, in your community. They don't have any idea what kind of challenges you've faced and what's been difficult for you and how you've overcome the challenges or addressed them or dealt with them. They also don't know what you're capable of. And they don't know what drives you or what motivates you. And this is a huge opportunity. So don't waste your precious essay space on telling them things they already know. Tell them about things they don't already know. But be patient, because this step is often the one that takes the longest. But if you spend some time here, you will have a great list of topics to choose from. So maybe you already know, now that we've started talking about this, or maybe before you watch this video, you thought, oh, I already know what I'm going to talk about in my essay. Well, awesome. But if you don't, and even if you already have a really good idea, if you want a couple of more so that you can choose from them, I'm going to suggest that you do one of my very favorite exercises. It's a brainstorming exercise from Ethan Sawyer, the college essay guy. The link to it is going to be in the comments down below. So I want you to pause this recording, and I want you to go and do what's called the objects exercise. Ethan actually calls it the essence objects, because they become the essence of who you are. That's what they represent. It's an awesome brainstorming exercise, and it's one of many that my students do in my practice with me, as they're trying to figure out what it is about them that makes them unique, that they can write about. So stop the recording, pause it here, go do that exercise, and I'll meet you back here in a minute. Yes, go right now and do it. Okay, so you've done your Find Your Voice exercise, and you've done Ethan Sawyer's the essence objects exercise. You are well on your way to knowing what you might want to talk about in your essay. So you might say, hey, Anne, aren't we going to talk about what the prompts are? And I'm going to say to you, no, not yet. In my next video, I'll talk to you a little bit more about the prompts, but my thought is you come up with a great story about who you are. It will fit any of the prompts that the Common App has to throw at you. I have yet to find a story that doesn't fit. But I do want to talk to you about the different kinds of essays that exist. So let's take a minute at the end of this video and just quickly review them. So we've spent some time mostly talking about the Common App personal essay. Some people call it also a personal statement, but it is the essay that's associated with the Common App, which is used by hundreds of colleges in the US. It is one essay that gets sent to every college that you apply to through the Common Application. It's 650 words maximum. You don't have to write that many words. And you choose one prompt from 7 choices. Some students, especially ones here in California, tend to apply to the University of California system. And if you do that, you will be also writing 4 additional essays. Now, these are very different than the Common App personal essay. They're shorter, they're 350 words max each. You get to choose 4 prompts from a total of 8 prompts that are out there. And they're actually considered not essays, but they're called the responses to your personal insight questions. Same general topic. They want to find out a little bit more about you, but their goal is just a little bit different. And I'll plan to do another video just about the UC PIQs. Then once you get your college list together, even if they're on the Common App, some colleges kind of say, you know what, that one essay, just not really enough for us to get to know you. And so they add additional college-specific essays. And you will only know that you're writing those once you have your college list set and they are listed in the Common Application, or the colleges will let you know what they want you to write about. Common topics are things like, why do you want to come to this particular university? How are you going to make this a better place? What have you done in your community to make your community a better place? Also, why do you want to study what it is that you want to study? So it's another way for them to get to know you a little bit more deeply. And you'll often find that from college to college, there is a little bit of overlap in those topics. So sometimes you can write it once and then adjust it based on the question that's being asked. So there's lots of different types of essays, and it will really depend on the colleges that are on your list. But no matter how many essays you write, I still recommend that you go through the same process. Write in your authentic voice. Find out what it is you want to tell colleges and come up with a couple of stories, put some content together, and then refine. I just want you to relax a little bit and be yourself, because that is what colleges really want from you. So that's it for today. For more about college admissions, and if you want help with your college essays and applications, contact me at collegemadeclear@gmail.com or on my website, collegemadeclear.com. And I will see you next time. Happy writing.